Welcome to the Homeschool Together podcast. Where one working mom and a stay-at-home dad help you navigate the nuts and bolts of the growing and dynamic world of homeschooling.
With a focus on early learners, like me.
All the ins and outs of building and maintaining your homeschool life.
Homeschool.
Find out tips and tricks to make things like this easier.
I'm reading.
And ultimately, enjoy educating your kids. And what's that last thing?
Have fun together. Did I do good, Daddy?
Yeah, you did, sweetie. Good job. Hello, welcome back, friends and family, to Homeschool Together. Thank you so much for supporting us. We had a great month last month, and we know we've stepped down in our podcast, the number of podcasts we had, but we had it basically tied one of our best months ever. So we'd like to thank everybody who is continuing to support the podcast, all you new listeners out there who are binging old episodes. Thank you so much. And if you want to find a way to support the podcast, there's three ways to do it. There's a support page down below. You can also hit subscribe, and then one of the best ways you can do is share it with another family or friends. It's one of the best ways you can help us with the podcast.
Tell other folks about it.
Now, listen, today we're doing an episode that, when you have that fastball down the middle and you have a home run hitter, and Aaron was it? Aaron.
We're starting with the metaphors early tonight.
Aaron Judge, right? You throw it right down the middle, and he blasts it out of the park, right? That type of thing. Today is Ariel's. This is the heater. Throw me the heater today, guys. And today is all about mastering time management. So this is something that Ariel's very good at, being a project manager. She is always good about putting the Lego pieces in the right order and making sure your project reaches entitlement. That's a little corporate-y term there for as fast as you possibly can go. But today we're going to talk a lot about time management. We know, one of the great, I think, misunderstandings around homeschool is that, we just sit at home all day long.
Yeah, and we have all the time in the world.
All the time in the world, I know. And we all know, everybody listening to this right now is just laughing because they know they have, all the sports, all the get-togethers, all the co-ops. Hobbies
and tutoring and play dates
and all of it, right? Field
trips. And I mean, we are so busy. We're every bit as busy as a public school family, if not more than.
Yeah.
With a public school family, their kids go to school all day, and then they may have
a bunch of
sports
stuff.
and things in the evening. They feel really busy, but their day is usually only made up of a couple of main events. Yeah. A homeschool family's day could be made up of like 8 different things. I mean, there are days when we are going to all kinds of stuff. Our daughter has 4 different classes, and we have a park meetup, and we have, I have a play rehearsal that night, and there's one kid's got to go swimming, and the other one's going here, and we've got like all of these different things happening.
And this is a great example. So let's talk a little bit, like we're not trying to be, who's got the best schedule on the street.
No, not at all.
We've obviously got we've got our homeschooling, which is a thing, in and of itself. We're now doing 2 kids homeschooling. So I'm not just the single kid homeschooling with the kid playing in the corner type of thing. So I'm now doing stuff with both kids. We have the parent partnership, which is a beast in and of itself. There's the little one's going to preschool, so she has events and things that she needs to do. She's in dance class. That's not part of her preschool. The older one is doing volleyball. The little one is now doing swimming twice a day, volleyball twice a week, and we have volleyball on Saturday. So we are very busy.
They're both going to Scouts.
They're both going to Girl Scouts. So
Daddy is a writer. Mommy is works full time. And I'm in the middle of my MBA
program,
and I'm stage managing a show right now so I'm in rehearsals 5 nights a week.
So there you go. So this is a very topical
and we
show.
run this, little humble podcast. So, we have, and then of course we have, families and friends and all of those type of obligations too.
All the play dates.
And field trips, and it's fall. And so we have corn harvest trips, and we have volunteering with the Girl Scouts this weekend to pick corn for the food bank. And we just have all kinds of things going on. Our schedule is very full. It hurts my eyes to look at it.
It does.
And so you wonder this question of like, how do I manage my time? Because we certainly, our family, at least, we like to be busy. I know a lot of people like to be busy, but we don't want to be over busy. We don't want to be harried. We still want the primary purpose of having our kids at home is that we are homeschooling them. And if we've got so many activities and things going on that we can't effectively do that, then we have missed the target.
We're off the target. Yeah.
We're always trying to make sure that we're kind of keeping our eye on the prize there and knowing that is what is chiefly important in the day, that and our family time together, and the rest of it kind of needs to fall afterwards. So trying to keep it all balanced is a real struggle. And so this episode for me was a lot of research where I was kind of thinking about like, what are the challenges for our family, for other families, and what are some strategies that we use and some that we don't use that I'm gonna maybe start using to help us as well with time management, because it can be really, really tough, especially for new homeschool parents who think like who don't understand quite how busy we are.
Yeah.
And slowly, it's like I think a little bit like it's like a frog in boiling water a little bit, except for some that water heats up real fast, and they're like immediately in a bunch of tutoring classes and play dates and co-ops and stuff, and it can be kind of overwhelming.
Yeah, it's one of those things that it's best to be turned on slowly, so that you kind of get, you find the new normal, you find out what you can do best. You kind of work through your problems and you just layer things on. It's very hard.
That's the best way to do it. We never do that.
We never do that,
we
right?
We never do that.
No, nobody ever does that.
It sounds really logical. Like, yeah, just take one thing at a time and then see if you can handle it. And then, take one new thing and just work it into your schedule. It'll be fine.
We
never do that. We sign up for everything at once. We're like, okay, D-Day is on the 14th or whatever. Everything starts,
Exactly.
We never go slow. And I don't actually know any family that takes it slow either. If you're one of those families, I think that's great.
Power to you.
That's like who I want to be, but I'm not.
Well, it's funny because when the summer ends, it just turns on like a fire hose for us. I saw it coming. It was like kind of like a tidal wave coming.
Oh yeah.
And I kept telling you, it's coming. You're like, no, it's gonna be okay. We're gonna be all right. I got this great.
And you're
calendar.
like, no. The show's starting. Your MBA class is starting.
Class.
The parent partnership is starting. The scouts, the swim, the dance, the volleyball. It's all starting.
And I'm now like
at the same time,
the assistant volleyball coach. It's the thing.
It's the thing, yeah.
It's the thing.
It's busy. So
we've articulated kind of what we look like. Let's talk about.
We digress.
We digress. No, it's setting the table, Ariel.
You're right. Well, we're one of you. I think it's funny sometimes when you listen to podcasters or even YouTubers, and they're so like, I don't know, they're like on another plane. And I kind of think like, oh man, I'd love to be that person, but it almost feels just too aspirational. Like I can't get there. But we just want you to know, we see you. We are here with you in the time management. Be tough.
It was funny. You came home yesterday and you said, normally I got my act together. I got my stuff together.
Oh my gosh.
And you go
upstairs. You were a hot mess yesterday.
Yeah, you go upstairs and you go, what happened to our bedroom? I go, I don't know. She goes, it's a disaster. I go, they were playing Spy Kids up in the bedroom.
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about getting off of work and meeting you at the YMCA to take our daughter to swim lessons. And she shows up. She's wearing flip-flops and a skirt. It's 55 degrees and it's pouring rain outside. She's got no shirt. She has no coat. And guess what? She has no towel. And she's going to swim lessons. So I walk in to swim with a child who is completely unprepared for swimming. She has a suit on. She has a swimsuit on. She's got no towel. I had to like beg the poor YMCA staff for a towel that they had to like give me like on the down low because they're not supposed to. Ma'am, we don't have towel service. I'm like, yeah, I know, but my husband left me. He abandoned me because you had to go to volleyball. And so I'm there at swim and I've got like nothing. And then I've got to get this kid outside. We're running through the parking lot as it's pouring. I'm like, you were home all day. She didn't even have a towel. And I was like, what was happening? And you said, I don't, you go, the time got away from me.
Listen, there are days where even Michael Jordan has an off game. LeBron has an off game. I had an off game yesterday.
Yeah.
I had no responsibilities. You're lucky I was on my PJs yesterday.
It was funny because I was like, what happened before these lessons?
Here's even more. I didn't even work out yesterday.
Well, here's the funny thing. I go, what happened? And by the way, the kids need to clean up our bedroom. And you were like, huh? Like you didn't even know our bedroom was a total pit. Like, it was a disaster. There was toys and a fort everywhere in our bedroom. So
the Spy Kids.
It happens to us too, y'all.
It does.
So
it happens to
let's
everyone.
get into challenges.
So obviously we kind of articulated it. You have a lot of responsibilities, right? Like with homeschooling, it's like I'm juggling everything. It's funny. I think you sometimes look at me very funny at the end of the night. We're like, we're going to do it right after this podcast. I'm going to walk 5 feet that way. I'm going to pull out lunches and breakfast stuff. And
he sets out the
the
bowls or
homeschool
the plates and with the spoons, sets the cereal out, sets the cups out. I'm like, you've saved yourself like 20 seconds. Like, I don't get it, but I think it's a mental thing.
It's a mental thing.
It's like you want to be mentally prepared.
Oh, and I'm just laying out what I'm doing. I have all these responsibilities. Like tomorrow's gonna be a big day. I have got to take the little one to the homes, the parent partnership, and I've got to drive 2 other kids to the parent partnership, and then we've got to do this like switcheroo lunch thing, and then I've got to come back, and then we're gonna have, obviously swim later that night, and then volleyball, and then you're going to go to the play, and we're going to have to do the hot swap at the play for the one kid. And kids
we're eating dinner separately tomorrow.
We're eating dinner separately. There's going to have to be, obviously we're going to have to do baths at separate times. It's just going to be a hot mess tomorrow. And it's just like, I know it. And it's all these responsibilities I have.
Because for some reason, and I'm just a small rant, when you sign your kids up for sports, you sign up, you pay your $150. Yeah, I want my kid to play this. And there's no schedule. There is no schedule given. So you don't know
when volleyball
that you are double booked.
Yeah.
You have no idea. It's just like, it's like a crapshoot. You just like,
I'm happy we're double booked because I don't know if I could handle being out every single night at like 5 or 6 o'clock.
But it means that I have to race from work so that I can meet you, so we can switch off the kids, and I take one this direction, and you take the other one this direction. And there's no way we could have known that because there's no schedule published. I'm going to lament, and all you parents out there, you're listening to me right now, and you're like, yes, what the heck? Why don't they just publish the schedule, and whoever is the coach of the team needs to sign up for that schedule, or else you just don't coach. But no, there is no schedule until after you've already signed up and committed, and then you're like, well, shoot, now we're triple booked or whatever.
Well, and that's the problem, right? You're juggling so many things,
Yeah.
and there's
and
so
you don't
many
want one of your
uncertainties.
kids to miss out and not get to do an activity, right?
Exactly.
We got to
Or
be
sport or
equitable,
something.
right, with both the kids,
Yep.
and we only have 2. I don't know what you folks out there who have 3 or 4 kids, and you want to. Obviously, you don't want to say like, oh, well, one kid gets to do baseball and the other kids, don't get to do anything because this one kid gets priority. Everybody needs to get,
I'm sorry, sorry, Johnny, you're a soccer kid. You drew the fall schedule.
I mean, it's got to be
baseball.
so difficult to judge, and especially when the practices and things aren't given before the season. When you sign up, you really are dealing with like, you just don't know what's coming, and it could be an avalanche. So juggling priorities, if you're a parent who might work at home part-time while you're homeschooling, or maybe you're 2 working parents, that's even worse. We've talked with folks who are like medical professionals, and they're nurses and doctors and things, and they're like juggling their schedules, and then so they're switching off who has who when. I met a girl at the parent partnership this week that she's actually a nanny, so she's not even the primary parent. So those,
that's right,
those parents are actually like, they're homeschooling part of the time, but because of their work schedule, they also have a nanny, so they're kind of juggling that piece too, and making sure that they're handing off their homeschool to her. And you've got folks like me going back to school, and you've got activities, and you have family engagements. If you got a lot of family in the area, you have lots of stuff going on.
Play dates as well, getting kids together with their friends. I mean, there's just so many layers of responsibility.
There's so many responsibilities.
And I think right out of the bat for most of us, and this is an issue I think that all families deal with, but with homeschool, we're layering in so many things through the day, and it can feel overwhelming because it's like you also have sports like all the other families do, but you're trying to get friends together. You're going to the co-op. You're trying to get your math lesson in. You're trying to do your reading lesson. You're balancing 3 or 4 kids.
You're doing the grocery shopping.
All of that stuff,
things.
and you're bringing the kids along with you, right?
And while you have a lot of time, we do also really value having playtime for our kids. So it's that's part of our planned in part of our day is for them to have some quiet time, so you can do your workout, or they can have their reading, and the day fills very quickly, even though we're not doing formal schooling for as long as they would do in public school. The day seems to fill very quickly. And the other thing is that our kids, and maybe this is true of a lot of homeschool kids, they don't get up super duper early in the morning. I mean, they're up by, 7:30-ish, but they like to have...
They're up when the school bus drives through the neighborhood.
Right. They like to have like a half hour to an hour of solid like morning kind of playtime, wake up time before they're even going yet.
Yeah.
So we get a little bit of a late start. It's not super late, but it's enough that then, by the time you do your math and your reading and your nature study, and then we're going to go have lunch, and we've got this play date, and then there's this class, and mommy's home in an hour, and it really adds up.
Well, and I think that goes into the next challenge that a lot of people have is that, they try to put the structure in place to be successful. And while that's a good technique, it can also create a lot of, friction because something can move, right? There's a lack of flexibility. Oh, we can't have a play date on this day because we have all these things going on. Like all of a sudden our Thursdays are going to become very strange because we just had to move a class at our parent partnership from, we were a Wednesday, Friday family, but now we're a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday family.
Because it was bound to happen. We couldn't get away with 2 days.
Yeah, it couldn't work.
We're never going to get away with just 2 days.
But that day is a very strange, long, weird day. And it's kind of an oddball. And it took away some of our flexibility that we're having. I mean, guys, take your water bottles. We know all your moms out there have your giant water bottles. Pour a little bit out for me. My 4-year-old is done with the nap. we have a moment.
It was a sad day.
But
now our afternoons are more free. We had to live within the rigid schedule of nap time.
When you're on the sled hill, and you're still going at the end, but it's like you could just get off and walk, but you're just trying to eke out that last bit. You're like, can I get all the way down the hill? That was me, but I couldn't. It's all done.
And a lot of you folks, that if you've got a baby or a toddler or something and you have nap time, that can be really restrictive too, right? So you're trying to work within this very rigid schedule too of keeping your nap routine going, which is really hard.
And that was my theory for, going on 4 years now, is really, going back to the beginning, I've always been very much an adherent to my day revolves around the nap. Right. Because if my kid is not napping, they are not rested and they are not successful. Their behavior has issues and everything. So I always to the detriment of actually getting together with people, I always have to say I gotta go at 12:30 because I gotta get home and I gotta get this kid down for a nap. And
nap time was sacred.
It was sacred for me, and for a long time that window was nice because I would get a little bit of my time now. But now I've got 2 kids that are awake, and now I've got to figure out what to do with them in the afternoon, where I was working out in the afternoon, and now it's becoming a little bit of a thing. So I have to figure these things out. So my flexibility gets lost. And we can know that you guys may run into that as well. If you try to put this structure together, all of a sudden something's going to happen. Something's going to move, or something's going to get out of whack, or, you want to now do things in the afternoon and you're like, okay, well, I have to sacrifice this other stuff now if something changes. So we know that having structure could also be a challenge as well, because there's that balance between, this is the things I know I need to accomplish, but I need to have some flexibility here for, just everyday things that might happen, or having play dates and doing things.
And we all hear, right, that children thrive on structure.
Oh, yeah.
And our kids are really a testament to this. And I don't know if all kids thrive on structure. I'm sure there's lots of exceptions to that rule, but our kids definitely do. So we're always striving to give them structure, and yet our schedule is always out of whack. So that one is, to me personally, very stressful.
Yeah. I think going into this is something, and the next challenge is something that I'm actually feeling very acutely right now. And I'm having to kind of learn my way through. I know everybody listening to this, that's one of the big things about homeschooling, is that just when you think you got it solved, I think it's true for any type of child rearing. Anytime you think you have it solved, all of a sudden there's a new, something gets, there's a twist, or there's a change. And for me, now having to educate 2 kids, it's starting to become a little bit more challenging, because this issue of having a tailored education to every single kid, and understanding that, well, I can't sit here one-on-one with my one kid, my oldest, and completely ignore my 4-year-old. Or, how do I do my 4-year-old's lesson while my 8-year-old is sitting here going, well, Dad, what am I doing?
Right.
She's used to me doing one-on-one stuff with her all the time. And I'm having to really learn to say, okay, I'm starting to actually step back and look at our curriculum now a little bit and say, gosh, I need to fit stuff into our curriculum, or we need to align our curriculum so that there are things that she can do autonomously now, or learn to do autonomously, so I can have 15 minutes to teach the next, letter in the alphabet to my 4-year-old, or do some, a game, or do some math work with her because she really wants to do it. I need to have you go over there and do something, kid. Go read a story, go do this type of thing. And I need to have that structured within my curriculum. And having these tailored curriculums can be a big challenge for us with our time management. Right. How do we free up time? Because if you're spending one-on-one time with one kid for an hour or 2, well, then there's going to be another kid over here that you've got to spend 2 hours with. And all of a sudden you spend 4 hours today doing homeschool. Oh my gosh. I mean, you're spending all your day then.
Well, it's really hard, right? One of the best things about homeschool is that we can give our kids a tailored individual education, but that is a double-edged sword, because if the more children you have and you need to give them all individual educations, like those posts I see on like Build Your Library Families, where people are like, I'm doing 4 levels of Build Your Library right now with my 5 kids. And, you know, because they're all on different levels. And I'm like, oh, you poor mom or dad. Like that is, I could not do that. I mean, props if you're doing that. That's amazing. So, you know, juggling that individualized learning is really hard. The other thing about it is that there are constant interruptions to your time and to your day. The number of distractions that can disrupt from the, you know, oh, we had this lesson planned or this activity, and now all of a sudden something is thrown out of whack. It seems like it's more the rule rather than the exception.
When I'm finding my 8-year-old is getting very distracted by my 4-year-old when I'm doing lessons with her. I'm like, hey, I need you to color this picture of an Assyrian soldier, right, that we're doing for our ancient civilizations. I want you to color that, and I'm going to work with her. And so I'm working with her, and I realize she is not coloring this coloring thing, and she is staring at what we're doing for 20 minutes. I didn't even realize it. So then I look up and go, oh my gosh, you didn't do anything. She goes, oh, I'm sorry, Daddy. I was watching what you guys were doing. You know, it's like there are interruptions that come in, even just within the homeschooling element, right?
Right.
I'm starting to have to think about, okay, I need things that she can go do in another room. So she's not, you know, bothered or distracted, because my 4-year-old could care less about us doing a math lesson or a reading lesson.
And if you have, and we have had a toddler toddling around, I mean, that is like the ultimate interruption machine, you know, or a baby. I mean, you're just like, how do you ever plan and get something done? It can feel like like you're just like a rat in a wheel. You just like keep running and you're not going anywhere.
And to minimize a lot of those interruptions that we knew were coming this year, especially since both of them we knew were going to start doing curriculums on their own. You know, we have shifted the schedules so that, you know, we have an open day on Tuesday and Thursday so that our 8-year-old we can focus and do homeschool while my 4-year-old is at preschool.
Yeah, we're trying some new strategies. Yeah. The interruption thing, the challenge is real.
It's immense.
It's really real. The last big challenge that we wanted to highlight here for, you know, time management is finding time for yourself, because you find time for everybody else, right? And your homeschool and your kids and your house and your spouse and all these things, and finding time to care for yourself, to have your own hobbies and things is like, what hobbies? You know, afterthought. And I think we do a pretty good job of prioritizing our hobbies and keeping ourselves kind of grounded in the things that make us happy outside of being parents and, you know, being here, which obviously makes us happy. But, you know, you need to have your own kind of individual things that you love and that you know, are fulfilling to you. But that's a really important piece. It's like, you got all this other stuff going on. How in the world do I find time? I remember we interviewed Christina Garner for Blossom and Root. She's like, yeah, I get up at like 4:30 every morning, and there's like this hour and a half stretch or whatever. She's like, this is me time. And that's how she had to do it. Like she had to find a time that was ridiculously early in the morning before anyone in her house was awake to have her own time. I mean, props, I could never get up that early and do that. But, you know, like you may have to go to extreme measures. And I think it's really tough. It's really tough to prioritize yourself, because I feel like we're the first ones that get cut.
Oh, all the time.
Right. I'm not gonna miss my kid's swim lesson because I haven't had a chance to take a soothing bath this week. You know, like, I mean, I'm not gonna miss that opportunity. I mean, yes, maybe I won't clean the house, you know, and I'll instead take a soothing bath. But really, our kids and our family obligations typically come first, and ourselves, we usually come last.
So those were the challenges that we, you know, a lot of us may face. And obviously we're giving anecdotal stories about, you know, our experience. But obviously when you're listening to this, you know, you can extrapolate your own challenges and everything. And they're probably very similar in the nature of, you know, the theme of the challenge. Obviously, you know, how it actually manifests in your life is maybe a little bit different. But let's start to talk a little bit about strategies, some high level strategies on what we can do to be better. Because, you know, just being prepared, you know, like we've talked about, you know, me being prepared or doing all these little things, we've talked about the Google calendars that we've done before and everything. There's a lot of things you can do to help make yourself successful. So let's start with the first one, which is just goals. Right. Having those 30,000 foot goals set for you, I think can help drive you in a moment where you are uncertain. Right, we've talked about this.
Well, it's a cut line.
It is
to speak in corporate, right? You know, I'm a program manager, and this is what we do. We have a cut line, and things that we've got our highest priority things, and at some point there's a line and everything below that doesn't get done today or doesn't get done this week or this year or whatever it is. And this is a personal cut line. This is for your homeschool. These are those clear educational goals. We've talked about this on a few shows about having really meaningful metrics for yourself, really meaningful goals. Hey, this is the year that I want my child to start reading independently or whatever it is, whatever your big goals are, really clear objectives and, what's most meaningful to your family. And in these goals, it's not just your homeschool, but it's the other parts of your family. Hey, it's, one of our top goals is for our child to make a few more friends this year, whatever it is.
Like our youngest, I would like to see her cultivate her own little friend network.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Right now, her friend network is completely based on her sister's friends. And so she's got some sibling friends, but basically her sister's friends are her friends. Yeah. And, it was funny earlier tonight, you were like, your one mission next time you drop her off from preschool is to get with this one girl's mom and get her phone number so that she can have a play date because she says that's her best friend at school and she wants to have a play date. It's like, okay. So, whatever your goals are, having those in mind really helps you make that cut line decision because, spoiler alert, you can't do it all.
No, you can't.
And I think as homeschool parents, we get into the trap of thinking we can do it all. I think the parents that are working and sending their kids to school, they've accepted that they can't do it all long ago. Right. But once we decide to stay home with our kids and start this, there's a brief period of time where we're like, we could do everything. We have so much time now. I could do all the things I always wanted to do.
We have 8 extra hours.
And you realize really quickly that time is just like sucked right away, that you are so busy.
Vaporized in minutes.
In good ways, in ways that are meaningful to your family, but having some clear goals will help you kind of decide, make your own personal cut line. Where do things fall, right? If having dinner together as a family every night is incredibly important to your family, put it on your cut line. That one's going to make the grade.
And maybe you can't do the swim lesson at that time, right?
Right. So maybe you don't do evening sports and you instead do some sort of a homeschool swim or something that is done during the day, right? We have like a local aquatic center. They do homeschool lessons. They were waitlisted, so we couldn't get in. But,
because you had to sign up at 5 a.m. Who's up at 5 a.m?
Not me. So, whatever it is, like what's most important to your family? Is it most important to your family that you have one night a week where your family always plays board games? This is my dream, So some of these things we're going to talk about is these strategies are things we're personally not great at, but I think they're good strategies and I think they're aspirational things for even us to try to get to.
Well, one of the things that strategy for I would always encourage people is efficiency. This is something that I love this. Like geeking out. You geek out on this. I geek out on efficiency. If you can save 30 seconds, for me, that's everything. I think there was a great story, like Bill Gates timed how long it took for Windows to start on a PC. And it was like 2 minutes. And then he's like, I do this every day. And then he just did a quick calculation and he goes like, I lose years of my life waiting for these stupid computers to start up.
Is that why they invented sleep mode?
Something like that. Yeah, no, and like quicker ways to start the computers. Like, why should people be waiting this long? And like those type of little things like that, I think I just love and I geek out. And that's one of the reasons why I spend so much time in the evening, like tonight. I'm going to plan out my whole day tomorrow. I'm probably going to make lunches. I'm going to make all these things just so that I don't have to do it in the morning. I don't have to make any decisions tomorrow. All the homeschooling decisions are going to be made today. I'm going to pull out all the curriculum. I'm going to get my backpack all set up. I'm going to get everything ready so that tomorrow it just runs, right? Like I'm just going to like try to get it. It's just like a running start.
Well, because here's the thing. That lunch that you're going to spend 5 minutes or less right now making could take you 20 minutes to make tomorrow between all the distractions and the questions from children and all the stuff.
Socks and shoes, potty,
oh my
potty,
gosh.
Socks and shoes,
like,
potty.
It's so complex. The nights where we can get our kids to set out the clothes they're going to wear in the morning with the socks that they're going to wear, because I don't know why our kids can never find socks. There's a whole drawer. They each have a drawer full of socks. So when you say like, go get some socks on, they're like, I don't have any socks. I don't know where to go. Or they'll wear dirty socks, which is just awesome. So,
This episode of Homeschool Together is brought to you by Locherman.
Oh my gosh. So this is a real issue. And for me, I know it's not like I don't have a processing issue in general, but I have a really hard time with getting a lot of inputs at the same time. And
it's weird. It's weird because you are the project manager, the time management guy.
No, it's not.
Gal.
It's not having a lot of balls in the air. That's not my problem. The problem is a bunch of things coming at me at once. I can't. My brain. I don't know if it's because I'm in my 40s now. My brain cannot process all these things.
You got 40s brain.
It's like I got mommy brain ever since we had the second one. The first one I was fine with. And I think it's because there was only one of them saying mommy, mommy, mommy all the time. But now that we have two and they're both coming at you, like I could be trying to do something really simple, make a really simple dinner, or pack a lunch or something. And I've got kids talking at me from both sides, and I've got the dog needs to be fed and stuff's going on. And I'm trying to think about my stuff. And my brain shuts down.
You know, I chuckle in the corner when this happens.
I literally, and sometimes I feel like a horrible mom, but I yell at them. The other day, I physically, I couldn't take it. And I yelled at them really harshly because I was getting multiple inputs and the little one was trying to touch pool chlorine. And I was like,
no, then she locked you out of the house.
Yeah. Anyways, it was not my finest parenting moment. But my point is about all this is that you doing these things tonight when the kids are in bed and you have a few minutes makes you so much more efficient tomorrow because you can get these things done super quick. You can be organized. You have the time to think and to be able to process all of that stuff. And then tomorrow, when everything is chaotic, you can be present for the chaos and not be thinking about these other things. So whenever possible,
I'm ready to handle the new interruption.
Exactly. Whenever possible, if we can get things done the night before, or, you know, in a time when it's quiet, we are so much more efficient later. Yeah. I mean, if you're trying to figure out what page of the homeschool book you're on, while the kids are both coming at you with, what's for lunch? What are we going to do? What's dinner? What are we going to do this afternoon? They're asking you constantly, like you're the cruise director, like what is the next thing happening? It's like if you were trying to figure out where you're at in the curriculum at the same time, it's so frustrating.
Well, and if you're
having to lose your whole sense of balance.
If you're having to make the important decision, what lesson are we on? Oh, I got to go get that manipulative over there, or I've got to go get that worksheet for that lesson over here. If you've already done that work, you don't have to worry about it, right? Mm-hmm. It's just like you present the curriculum, you're prepared. You say, would you like to do reading? Would you like to do math? Or would you like to do ancient civilizations? It's like you get to make the decision. Mm-hmm. Other things too that I like about being efficient is using the found time, because a lot of times like we're reading, Poppy right now and we're behind a little bit and I've got to start reading Charlotte's Web soon. So I got to hurry and get through Poppy. And if you are not following us, head on over to YouTube and watch our videos about ancient civilizations, but it's a book we're reading right now. And I'm trying to get through it. I'm like, okay, I can read at breakfast time when they're eating breakfast. Mm-hmm. And when your sister's doing swim class and we're in between, the handoff, I can read you another chapter. Or like, hey, we're at dance class. Let's read another chapter here while sister's in dance class. Right. Like I'm taking the opportunities to move the ball forward on the curriculum and all the duties that we have to do by being prepared and having that stuff ready and going, okay, tomorrow I may have a 10-minute session right here at this time of the day. I'm going to bring the book tomorrow and put it in my backpack because if there's that 10, 15 minutes, I'm going to take advantage of that. Right. And I'm going to do the reading.
And it's not like we've scheduled the whole thing. It's not like that. It's just that in basic, this is what I've got tomorrow. Yeah. I'm going to tackle things in this order and I'm going to take a couple of extra pieces of work with me in case I end up with some time, which we often do end up with a little bit of time that we didn't plan on.
Well, and more often than not, it's a case of, okay, here's all the curriculum I got to do tomorrow. I think I can do that in the morning. And more often than not, by the end of that morning, I got something left on the end. There's something remaining that we got to do. Oh, do I want to start math to the afternoon? Well, there's more work in that. I would rather do that in the morning when she's fresh. All of my reading tomorrow, I only have she's got to read some words and some sentences. That's easy for her. Let's leave the easier work for that more difficult time. And let's pull in the math work here so I can do this. Just being efficient with how I make my decisions.
And when is your best time to work with your kids?
Exactly.
I know a lot of moms that love to get up early in the morning and have their coffee before the family gets up. Yep. And that's the time they do their planning. And here's what we're going to do
If I was up early enough like that, then maybe I would do all my preparation work then. So it's not like you have to do it the night before. I just find that that's my best time to do that. And nobody's bothering me. I can prep everything and I can be ready. And when I wake up in the morning, I don't have to make any decisions. My brain doesn't have to be whatever. Like I can just open up my phone, check some email, see how much money I lost in crypto last night, and then I could just go forward with my day and do my homeschooling.
Well, right. And the other thing is that you can find ways to do things in a creative manner. Like, for Charlotte's Web, we found a great audiobook. And so I think we might just do that in the car because we have a lot of driving coming up in the next couple of weeks. And
well, we've already read that book to her before. And so I was like, do I want to sit down and read this again? I know you read it, but I haven't read it to her. So maybe I want to read it to her.
Well, right. But, audiobooks are great. And we love to listen to audiobooks in the car. And when there's a lot of car time coming up, it's like, hey, boy, if we look at this, a lot of these kids' books, it's like, that's a 6-hour audiobook. Like, man, we're going to be in the car for at least 6 hours in the next 2 weeks. Boom, we'll just do this as an audiobook and we can all get to enjoy it. I find sometimes when I'm reading aloud to the kids and I'm having to do all the voices because they demand the quality.
Yes, they do.
It takes me out of the story a little bit because I'm thinking about whose voice was whose. And, when I'm listening to it and it's a good audiobook reader, I'm like, yeah, great, let's just do that. So if you can be a bit more efficient and think about those real like time sucks in your day. And this is something that we've always kind of looked at. It's like, what is the thing that ends up taking us the longest time? Like, for example, going to cook dinner and we pull out a piece of meat and it's frozen. Okay, so now I've got to work at thawing this meat and I've got to deal with all these pieces. It's like, okay, wait, if I could just, pre-cook some meat, put that in the freezer, that would be great. Or we found that we started to buy pre-cooked bacon because we were like, man, I'm in the morning or whenever and I'm having to make bacon.
Costco.
Yeah. Thank you, Costco. I'm like, hey, we'll pay just slightly more for pre-cooked bacon because then we just heat it up and I don't have to worry about that. And I don't have to clean up after it. And there's sometimes you have to like look for those little efficiencies. So if you're really struggling with your day, check out where some of the time gets sucked away. I know that some of the time just gets completely eaten up with our kids trying to pick out what outfit they want to wear. That's your kid's problem.
Yeah.
Maybe do it the night before or something.
And be careful when you become more efficient in something that you don't immediately fill that with something else. The goal is to remove inefficiencies
and stress
without backfilling more stuff. Like, I now have an extra 15 minutes. I'm going to do this new thing. Sometimes just saving the 10 or 15 minutes, enjoy those 10 or 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Like you're already doing enough. You're doing plenty. If you've made yourself more efficient, enjoy the efficiencies. It doesn't mean you have to backfill with something else because it's just adding more and more stress.
Yeah. Like sometimes we'll do our read aloud. If I can't find an audiobook, I'll do it as the bedtime read aloud. So It's like, okay, great. I'm doing something for homeschool here. We were doing Egyptian mythology. I was reading that at night so that wasn't part of what you had to do. And, if we're going to watch a movie together as a family, hey, if that could be aligned with the curriculum, then okay, all the better.
Exactly. Next thing would be creating a schedule. I think that's something that can help a lot of people. If you are feeling like you're scatterbrained, putting together a schedule, Google schedule like we have, using the Google Calendar.
Or, a poster board works great.
Board as well, yeah.
So, find what works for your family. If it's a daily schedule or a weekly schedule, don't schedule down to the 15 minutes.
Don't do that.
This is guidelines. Like, okay, here's the general movements of our day.
Like here's the morning homeschool block. We have a 4-hour window.
Right. And here's the things that we need to do. And it also really helps for our kids. They love seeing what's coming up because especially our older daughter, now that she's almost 8, she's like, hey, I see that if I do my 20 minutes of reading, that means that I get 20 minutes of Lego. So she'll actually proactively be like, oh, no, Dad, go work with sister here. I'm just going to take care of my reading right now. Like she's like looking for the efficiencies too because she wants more free time. Yeah. So we can kind of get our kids involved in that. And if you have a schedule posted, it's really helpful for them to be able to kind of see the movements and be prepared. Because that's the other part of the day is that, kids don't love when you change course on them, change direction. Yeah. When you have it on the wall, like, hey, this is what we're doing, and they understand. We used to go over our schedule for the next day with our daughters before they went to bed because our older, when she was like 5, 6, she had a really hard time with getting on board with what the plan was going to be. So the night before we say, okay, tomorrow, this is what's happening, and so having something on the schedule or going over the schedule the night before or in the morning and saying, this is what our day entails, helps get everybody on the same page about what we're going to do and can help transition between activities a little bit easier. And, when you're making a schedule too, the best part about it is you quickly see where you have these milestones you have to hit in your schedule. Like, okay, we've got swim at 4:00 or whatever.
You gotta start using time blocks in order to block out
and
the
so
time.
like that's what you have, and you've got that piece, and we have to do this class that we take at 10 a.m. It's like, okay, so you can block in the things that have to be there, and then you have this cut line that you've got of all the stuff you want to get done.
Yeah.
And the important things and the fun. And some of the cut line stuff is fun. I want our kids to have at least an hour of quiet time every day. And that's on our cut line. It's there. And you can kind of play with the blocks and find where it works. And so we have a weekly schedule.
Yeah, we're starting to structure in open days as well. Like our Mondays are wide open day.
Mondays are our field trip day where you get to do something fun. It's an open day. You could take a friend with you. So that's kind of a play date and a field trip in one. Yep. So you're kind of doing both. But we have it blocked as a week because we don't have a consistent day because of our classes at our parent partnership.
Every single day is different for us.
They're all different. And so we found that the best way to do it was we've got a whole month on Google Calendar. So we know the big movements going on. And then we have a weekly schedule that we kind of have an understanding of what the blocks are. And our kids have an understanding of, okay, it's a Tuesday. This is what happens on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And
we have essentially,
it helps.
Instead of a daily flow, we have a weekly flow. And being a weekly flow requires you to be, I think, to think about the time blocking, like you kind of said, is really think about your homeschooling as these chunks of time or activities or chunks of time that you don't have a daily schedule that's the same. You're not going to have the same rhythms every single day. Even just working out schedules between the two of us is like, okay, do you have a Monday? Oh yeah, you have the Monday. Okay, I'll do it in the afternoon here. Oh, on Wednesday you're here, so I'll do my workout in the morning. Like we're even having to, you can't do. A lot of us like to do the same thing every morning. I want to get up and do my whatever. Sometimes you don't have those type of luxuries based on your schedule. Yeah, absolutely. Next thing would be to prioritizing your tasks. Obviously, you talked about a cut line, and you want to have these tasks that are prioritized. What is the most important thing? Like what you said earlier, is it important for you guys to have dinner every single night? As a family, we love that. We love sitting down and having dinner.
We love it.
There's only one meal a day that we get to all sit around together and have, as a family. And for us, that's very important because we get to chat and talk. Mm-hmm. We get to talk about, hey, we're going to, like tonight when we went for a walk after dinner. It's a great time for us to kind of catch up, for you and I to talk, and just find out what's going on in the day.
And we had to move it below the cut line because our girls are both in activities that conflict, and we're in two different places for this short period of time. Once I'm done with rehearsals, we won't be. So we were like, okay, well, for right now, it's not making the cut. Yeah. But in general, it is something that we want to do every night together.
Well, and it's kind of funny because I spent my professional life back when I was, working, and I was a product owner for software teams, and my whole job was to set priority of tasking. Like, okay, I need these features in, or I need these bugs fixed, and this and that. And so setting priority is like, it's almost a sixth sense for me, because it's just like, I immediately know what is the highest priority item, and those are the things I work on. This is sort of like a kind of a Kanban methodology, and maybe one day we'll do an episode on Kanban.
You keep teasing it to people. You've been teasing it for like 3 years.
I know.
We're gonna do a Kanban episode.
It's my favorite methodology. My friend, I taught him how to do the Kanban. He calls it the booza board at his house, and they do it. They love it, and it helps them with the prioritization, because a lot of times you can forget what is the most important thing to do, and then you end up having like 50 things that are all 10% done. Right. And then, so do you want to focus on getting 3 or 4 things done, or do you want to be 10% on 20 things? Right. And you have to really figure out what is the most important thing. And doing that in your homeschool is, I think, super important. Like, for example, me, our ancient civilizations is a key priority for me. I know you keep saying, hey, it's okay, we can spend extra time here and there. I like the curriculum. I like the ancient civilizations. I love doing it. It's a big piece of our Tuesday and our Thursday with my daughter. And, I love learning about another ancient civilization. She's asking for it. We love it. And so for me, that's a really high priority to get that. Right. We're moving so fast through math right now. It's not even funny. I'm not even worried about it. All About Reading now is starting to really cruise at a good speed. It's
doing okay.
And so I'm really focusing like, okay, this has become the highest priority thing for us.
But we bought science. We wanted to do Blossom and Roots year 1 science, Wonders of the Earth and Sky. And we still intend to do it. Yeah. But for the moment, it's falling below our cut line because we're doing nature, which is a sciencey study with Build Your Library. And
Fridays are turning out to be not homeschool days.
We thought Fridays were going to be this big day, but they ended up being very busy with scouts and other things, going to see family. And so our week didn't quite work out the way we'd planned. And for right now, knowing that we're early in the school year and we are so busy, we're like, we're going to table science for right now.
Yeah.
We're just going to do the nature study, and we might pick science up in the spring or closer to the holidays. We'll see how things go. But we kind of were like, the math, the reading, our social studies and our nature study, that's coming above our cut line.
Yeah, exactly. And it's okay to reset priority. It's, you may have an initial set of priority, but, the conditions may shift underneath. And all of a sudden you realize 3 or 4 or 5, 10 weeks later, gosh, I need to reprioritize this work because obviously this is becoming higher priority. Or you may have a kid go, I just absolutely love this thing, whatever it might be. And that all of a sudden just percolates up to the top of the priority list, and then you have to make you have to reassess things, and that is an okay thing to do as a strategy for you to continuously reassess your priorities through your homeschool. Because if you're balancing 3 or 4 kids, I mean, my goodness, you're going to have to balance a lot of priorities with those kids. And you may have to say, listen, one of you gets 1 priority each. And that's about it, right? You may have to make decisions like that where you can't have everything.
And one of the things you can do, especially like in our state, we have to teach 11 subjects. Like, well, how do you do that and keep everything up in a week? A lot of people love a loop schedule. So it's like, hey, this is all the stuff I have to do. And rather than doing it via a cut line, they've just got this whole list and they're just going to cycle it. And that may mean that they're only touching a subject every couple of days. And if that works for their family, that's great. There are some subjects we really like to touch every day. Like we like to touch our reading every day. And we really think that that's best for our daughter. But whatever works right for your family, if you want a loop where you're like, hey, we've got our math and our reading every day, and then all the rest of our subjects are on a loop, and we're just going to go to the next one. We're just going to pick up the next book and we're going to do that. And then we're going to put it at the back when we're done, and we're just going to keep cycling. And that's okay too. That's a totally valid way to go, especially with, other things that are non-core or, you've got a couple of really high priority things like for us are math and reading. And then maybe you've got a bunch of other stuff that's of similar priority levels. You're not really sure. You kind of want to do it all. Your kids enjoy it. It's one of the hard things for us is our daughters really kind of enjoy everything.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
It's not like they have certain subjects that they just hate doing. They basically love most of it. So it's hard for us to make decisions. And there's a lot of things that fall in that kind of like medium priority level because they're kind of up for anything.
Yeah, they are. They're kind of up for any of the curriculum that we're doing.
Right,
Absolutely.
which makes it a little bit tough.
Next thing you can do as a strategy is to use technology. We've talked a little bit about this using like calendars, planning tools, digital planning tools, Trello. You have a wonderful playlist on Trello. I'll go ahead and link that below if you're thinking about digitally planning your curriculum and all of your tasking. Using technology to help you accelerate that. Maybe you work a lot on your phone and you want to put your curriculum on your phone and help you manage what you need to do. And maybe that's the best thing you do.
Right.
Maybe you have a to-do list or you have an app that you love to use. Maybe it's like Notion or the old Wunderlist, which is, I think now Microsoft To-Do.
Todoist?
To-Do is what it's called. Todoist is a different app.
Oh, yeah. I can't keep it. One of the things I love the most, hey, well, maybe you're going to get the main chapter book that you're reading on Kindle, and then I have the Kindle app on my phone.
Exactly.
So I've got the book at home, I have it on Kindle, I have it on my phone.
You can read anywhere you want.
Which means anywhere we go, I have access to that book.
Yep.
So that's a great way for technology to work for us. We started recently doing IXL, which we're really enjoying. We're leveraging that technology because our kids really love it. Our older daughter really loves it. That's something great that she can do while we're working with our younger one individually. So we've got some of that independent work that she can do at the same time.
Starting to cultivate that as she gets older to be more independent in her education, I think is a big thing to work on.
Right. So you might find some different apps that will help you in the individualized part of, in or independent part of their education. You might find some things that help you schedule. We love to do all of our progress in Google Drive. We love to do all of our planning in Google Drive. So I have it everywhere I'm going. When I'm sitting at the park, I could be scrolling on Facebook on my phone while the kids are playing, but instead I'm able to look through my homeschool plans because I have it all on Google Drive.
Exactly.
So I'm able to go through, I'm able to look at my calendar, I'm able to think about what we're going to do for the next day. I'm able to make plans. So really the big message is try not to duplicate effort.
Yeah.
If you can use digital tools, try to.
Yeah, absolutely. Next is to involve your children. They need to be setting their own schedules. They're managing their own time, managing their own tasking. it's not as true for the younger ones, but as they begin to get a little bit older, they're going to be running on their own. They need to be reading their books. They need to be writing their composition. They need to be,
maybe they're teaching younger children and solidifying their own knowledge at the same time. Maybe they're the ones reading the chapter book.
Or if you have two children coming along on a curriculum together, maybe you have an 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, or an 8-year-old and a 4-year-old who are going to be doing a around the world journey together. Maybe they're going to be doing activities together. Coloring certain things, reading certain, maybe you'll have the older kid reading to the younger kid the book of the day or whatever it might be. Leveraging the other children in your family to help be educators and mentors, I think is a very powerful tool as you as a teacher to leverage them, because you're right, they can learn it, but also a great way to solidify knowledge is to teach it. And there's nothing wrong with having an older kid play a game with a younger kid, or an older kid to teach a little math concept to their sibling. It's not an everyday thing. It's not every single lesson, but once in a while it can be very special.
It certainly can. And giving your kids some autonomy over their schedule with like, hey, this is the list of all the stuff we got to get done this week. I'm a big believer of saying, when we get done with all this stuff, your time is your own. I love that whole concept. If you work hard and you want to prioritize this and you want to maybe, sacrifice your Lego time today because you want to get some other lessons done so that maybe you have a whole day off on Friday, you go, girl. Like, you do it, right? I think that's great. And that teaches them some great time management skills that they can use later in life. Hey, if I can prioritize and not procrastinate my work, I can have more time for fun things that I want to do. So I think that's also great.
Another strategy you can do is to delegate and outsource. That's a great thing. That's something that we are kind of doing now with our parent partnership. Not that I am completely shifting all my reading lessons off. I'm using my parent partnership to help accentuate certain things that I'm doing. And I have my oldest in a reading class who's kind of, working the same subject from two different directions. You may have a co-op that is doing science, and you may offload all the science education to that co-op class, or you may have this thing where you may have a parent share with a parent down the street who's also homeschooling, and you say, well, I'm good at math and you're really good at art. Can we, exchange kids for these two lessons?
Right. Or you enroll in an outschool class, or you have a tutor, or, like finding somebody else to teach a subject for you frees up your time to do something else, whether that's the things you need to get done at home, whether that's your own personal care time, or doing individualized, work with a different student, or, whatever it is. I mean, we have this kind of mentality, like we want to do it all. Like I want to be there for everything. And I'm kind of starting to realize that it takes a village. So you may need to find, the other folks in the village that can help you and give you some more time back to your day by helping with certain subjects. I think one of the problems with it is that again goes to being, you could get overscheduled because now you have more commitments at specific times. Yeah. So finding things that work on the schedule that's conducive to you is really important. And, that's a great class, but oh gosh, it's a half an hour from here. Maybe that's not the class you enroll in because it's going to take a bunch of time to get there.
Prepare to leave and all that stuff. Yeah.
Right. We try to double things up when like one kid's doing something, we have our one kid's in classes, the other kid is here so that we can focus on them and we can give them all that time and then they switch kind of thing. Yeah.
I think something you just said there is probably really important. And I think it's something that we've kind of seen in some of the interviews that we've had before, is this idea that as our kids get older, we're going to lose more control over their education. True. And I think that's something with us early learners, we spend so much time, my whole life is devoted to helping this kid learn to read and to do math and doing the, whatever the curriculum is and whatnot. And my whole life is, I am the teacher. I am Judge Dredd,
You control it all.
I control it all, right? And I'm starting to learn and realize that as she gets older, she's going to have more mentors and more influencers in her life. And people who teach her things is not going to be me. And I have to be comfortable with like starting to let go and giving her those opportunities to learn certain things that I know she needs to learn from other people. Mm-hmm. Even though I sometimes feel like, oh, I'd be really good at teaching you that. But you know what? It's okay for you to go learn this thing from this person. Mm-hmm. And that frees up a little bit of time for me. And I think that's important. And that's, delegating and outsourcing as they move through, because there's going to be a time where she's going to start to want to do something that I can't do. Music is a great example of that. Like she's starting to take violin and I'm not a very musical person. And I'm having to really feel like, okay, I've got to find someone to help you with this because I am not the person for you. Singing as well. She's in choir and I'm like, dude, you've heard my voice. It is not something that's magically buttery. It's not buttery and smooth as I wish it would be. But, offloading those skills is something that I'm starting to have to come to grips with as an educator, that, okay, maybe I'm not the perfect fit for every single lesson. And, I've started with early learners, but now all of a sudden I'm starting to have to get beyond that. Next thing is to block distractions. My goodness, the amount of distractions that can come in is intense.
And it's really difficult to figure out how, you're not planning for a distraction, right? No. That's kind of hard. But one of the things you talked about earlier, realizing that our older daughter is really distracted by our younger, we've started sending her to do work in another room so that she can't be
And we have this
distracted
table, it's right here
easily.
next to us, that is perfect for that. Yeah.
Trying to create that conducive learning environment that's free from distractions, it helps us to focus and have time, really minimizing all the interruptions that happen, which just constantly take our learners out of it. And then we've got to reset. Sometimes that means like we put the dog in our bedroom because otherwise she barks at all kinds of different cars that go by or the UPS guy or whatever. Yeah. It's like that every time that just distracts me. Oh, is there a package? Oh, they're like constantly being distracted by it.
We have to be also fearful of the distractions that we are creating for our kids as well. Like whether or not we are looking at our phones while maybe we should be engaged with them or watching what they're doing. Or if you do have to get up and look at your phone and they're doing some work, like for example, today my daughter was doing an assessment on the Right Start, and it's she just had to do the work right there, and it was in front of her, and I was just kind of proctoring essentially the assessment, and I was sitting there on my phone, and I realized, oh, she can see me just playing on my phone or looking up the news or whatever it was. So I got up and said, hey, I'm just going to stand over here and get a glass of water, and you let me know if you need something. So I was able to get out of her way, get out of her zone, not being distracting to her. So we have to think about all the various different types of distractions that can come in, not just other siblings, but we also can be the distraction in of ourselves, because I know it's very hard for us to stay off our phones. It's very addicting and it's very fun, and we have to be aware of that.
Reading or whatever we do, they're interested in what's going on with us. It's absolutely true.
I think the final thing here is probably the most important, is the self-care aspect of this. Is really, how do you fit that time in to take care of the things that you want to do? Like, spoilers, we got a bargain basement inflatable hot tub, 50% off, Coleman special, sitting outside right now. Is currently heating up to a ripe temperature of 95 degrees.
No, it's a little hotter, hopefully.
Hopefully a little hotter than that. So self-care. You're about to go into your jacuzzi and have a relaxing, read in under the stars of Western Washington.
Yeah, I think what's really important is you have to
What am I doing, Ariel? What am I doing?
You're going to be setting out lunch plates.
I'm going to be making lunches
That's
tomorrow.
Right. I think the important thing is you have to be connected with yourself enough to know when you're getting stressed and getting overtaxed. For me, I need downtime at the end of my day. I can't just go and then go to sleep. It doesn't work for me. I need to have at least one really solid good walk a day, if not like two, just because I need that for myself, whether that's some time on the treadmill or that's with the family. We took a nice walk earlier down to a park, and that was really great. I know the things that I need. You need to have your workout. Like if you don't have your workout, you're just not centered for the day. So we know this about ourselves. We have some hobbies. You have a night out that you go out every week, just so you have a night without the kids where you don't have to think about anything. You can just focus on whatever it is you want to do. It's really hard to have that time to prioritize ourselves.
It requires, I think, a good partnership too, because the last few weekends you took the kids on Sunday and I had free mornings, and I got to go on my long walks that I like to do, my 10, 15 mile walks. And I get to listen to my audiobook and nobody bothers me. And I, get a lot of great exercise. My lists, my low intensity, steady state workout. And I love it. And it's one of my favorite things to do. And we were talking about things we love to do. And I'm like, I love to go on super long walks, and I do it without batting an eye. You're like, hey, you're free. I'm like, I'm get all my stuff together.
Right. You're going on a super long walk. Yeah. Find the things that bring you joy, that decrease your stress, whether and maybe that's going to lunch with a friend, or you've got to go to yoga class, or whatever it is for you. And everybody's got different things. Find that thing and then make time for that. I love theater, and we've made, it's a pretty heavy time commitment when it's going on. So we've made a commitment that I'm only going to do 2 shows a year. So it's very strategic. It's like, okay, those are the 2 that I'm doing a year. I'm doing my MBA, and that's really important to me, but I'm only taking 1 class at a time. I'm not trying to double up. I mean, we're trying to pull those levers and make something reasonable for ourselves while keeping balance with our homeschool. So, and our family. So this is about getting in touch with you. And if you haven't had a night where you've had a night off and then you need one.
Talk to your significant other.
You've got to have one. Get a babysitter. I mean, we struggle a lot with date nights. We're really good about working around each other and giving each other time off, but we're not very adept at getting time off together. And now that our kids are getting a little older, we're starting to work out some like parent shares with other families where we can be like, we'll take your kids and then you take our kids next weekend.
I mean, there's sometimes
starting to work out.
Like I think yesterday I don't think we had a really like a meaningful. We talked a little bit because we had a little handoff, but I don't think I saw you all day yesterday. Because I fell asleep early last night.
Right. And when I got home, you were already asleep.
So we didn't have any meaningful conversation other than the little blue blips on the text messages.
Right. Which was a really weird day for us. We always kind of sync up during the day. And that's one of the times that you and I usually need. I didn't feel very centered when I went to bed last night because I was like, I didn't get to talk to you. And that was just really strange. So find what it is that brings you your center and make sure that you prioritize that. It's just as important as everything else because it's the first thing to get cut. I know it is. It is for us. It is for you, I'm sure. Yep. But you have to look at it. Find as important.
Find something in some type of cadence that is sustainable. We all know that everybody has different situations and stuff. And maybe you can't have one night off a week like I do. Maybe it's every other week or once a month. Whatever it is, find whatever that is and start to put it in place and really value yourself, because I think the only way to sustain such a long effort like this, which is homeschooling, whether you're considering doing it for 1 year or you're going to go the distance like we are, you got to have your time. You cannot sacrifice 18 years of your life, shepherding 2 children through this long process and completely ignoring yourself along the way. It's not worth it. You have to figure out some time for yourself. And I think we did a whole month on self-care.
Yeah. You won't be at your best if you don't have time to keep yourself centered. Yeah. So,
and if you're at your best or you're at, marginally close to your best, like we all are, I'm running at 80% and that's okay. That's good for your kids. And if you're running at top speed or, moderately top speed, it's going to help your kids and it's going to help your performance to your children. And I think that's the most important thing about self-care is that it's investing in you so that you can then invest in your children. And it's a partnership.
And your marriage and all of it.
Yeah, all of it.
I think it all stems, right? That kind of pyramid. Yeah. So, and then the last thing we'd want to leave you with before we go about time management is take a time, what is it a week or a month or whatever. I like weekly because it's something that's near enough that I can really do it. And you want to kind of do a postmortem, right. And this could be 5 minutes. I'm not saying that you take a bunch of time, but you really have to at some point sit down, and we do this pretty often. We'll sit down at the end of the week and be like, what was tough this week? How are we feeling? Did we feel like we had enough time? What changes do we make for next week? And it could be a very short conversation as, oh yeah, this week was crazy because we had so much stuff. Next week's going to be better. But
it's kind of built into our curriculum because at the end of the week, very often is the end of a week of the Georgia Library curriculum. And, it's a great talking point for us to say, how did the week go? What can we do better next week?
Right. And sometimes it's like, next week's going to be really busy. I think maybe I'll make some extra meals on Sunday because we need to do that. Whatever it is, you need to be auditing this fairly regularly because time management is not one of those things that you can just like set it and forget it because our lives are so dynamic and things are changing all the time. So make sure that as you try to find your balance and you try to find the time to do all the things that are important to you, that you kind of regularly come back and sit down with your spouse, or sit down yourself even and kind of go, what worked or what
another mom that maybe is coming along with you. I mean, it doesn't just has to be somebody who's a sounding board to help you move to the next level.
Right. Like, did you have enough time this week? What wasn't working? And, sometimes I need that perspective from you, or you need it from me of like, let's not stress about this. Wasn't one of the important things or whatever. So I think you need that time to reflect. So we hope that this is really helpful and that you can find the time to get things done that are most important to you, and that you can decrease your stress. You have proper expectations about what you're going to get done. That's the thing too, is like, knowing what's really feasible in a week and how much I can really expect to get done reduces my stress, because then I'm not constantly playing catch up with all the things I didn't get done that I had on my list.
But I think this is, it's very funny when you get into homeschooling, you think, oh, I got to pick curriculum. I got to figure out how to organize my homeschool room and everything. And really, after like 3 or 4 weeks of homeschooling, it all falls down into time management. How do I manage all this stuff? Like, this is really what homeschooling is all about. It's not about, picking the perfect curriculum or doing whatever. It's really like, how do I manage my day to day? How do I make it successful?
Done?
How do I get all these things done?
Find the joy, right? We want this to be a joyful experience for our kids.
Because we're so amped up about the curriculum at the beginning. Like, oh, this is going to be amazing. Fireworks, it's 4th of July. It's amazing.
Oh, this curriculum is so beautiful.
And then you're like 4 months into it and you're like, yeah, we're on lesson 87 now.
Yeah.
It's like, it's just a glaze of lessons. Like, you're looking out in the past, you're like, the horizon is just like another 87 lessons to go.
And it's not that it's not good, and it's not that it's not.
I'm talking about you write start math. You get to lesson number 70. You're looking in the forward. It's like as far as it is in the rearview mirror.
I think it's a process, like everything. Homeschooling is more akin to life than it is akin to school. Yeah. And I think that there's very few people who do time management well in their lives. And then you've just amped it up by adding all of these schooling responsibilities too. So it's an incredibly tough thing.
We got to call it the homeschooling business. Like, cause you're in there, you're the CEO of the business. Yeah. You got these unruly employees. They're constantly destroying things. You got to get the work done by the end of the week. You got a schedule to keep. You got to open the doors. You got to close the doors. You got customers coming in.
Yeah, it's so darn complicated. I can't even express. And we are, 4 years into our homeschooling journey now. Yeah. So we can kind of chuckle a little bit about this. It was so much easier when we had one, and she was so little that she wasn't in a lot of activities and things. And now we have two, and now they're older and they're in activities, and there's parent partnership, and there's scouts, and there's things, and there's, blah, 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 blah. There's all of this stuff going on, and friends and things. We don't want to lose the joy. Yep. And I would never want somebody to stop homeschooling because they just couldn't figure out the time and just felt like they were running and they were constantly behind and not getting things done. So
I can tell you what, it's very helpful to have you around, kiddo. Thanks so much. I appreciate it.
I try. I plan a lot, and then you're like, I can't get it all done. I can't get the plan all done. I'm like, that's cool. We'll just do some on the weekend. Some will spill into Monday. You're like, no, it's a week's worth and we're supposed to be done on Friday. I'm like, says who? Chill out, man. It's cool. I'm here to remind you.
I'm supposed to be the Han Solo here. You're the Leia.
Sometimes I'm like, is this critical path? No, let's just chill. It's cool, right? It's all cool. And at the end of the day, you need to remember that too. If there's something you didn't get to this week, please don't beat yourself up.
There's always Saturday and Sunday.
There's always next week. It's okay. There's nobody keeping score. It's fine. No, right?
It's sort of like whose line is it anyway, where the numbers don't mean anything. And
the points don't matter.
Yeah, the points don't matter.
Right. It's not, right? The whole goal here is for us to develop critical thinkers, lifelong learners, kids who have had a joyful experience of childhood where there was time to discover and explore and play and grow and do this all supported and loved, and engaged and all this stuff, right? And all those words, none of that has to do with score. No. None of that has to do with how fast did you get something done, right? And I think we get so caught up in that. Yeah, that's all the intangibles. It's all the stuff when we ask our daughter what she loves the most about homeschooling, she doesn't say getting an A on my Right Start math test. She was worried if she had an A. She got an A- today. You know what I mean, right? I mean, what she likes most is she's like, oh, it's sitting with daddy. Oh, it's being with mommy, right? Yeah. Those are the things that she really loves. And we get so caught up in our to-do list that's 3 miles long and all the stuff we have to do and the expectations and who we thought we would be when we started homeschooling and what we thought we would do and that it was going to look this way and our kids were going to be excelling. And everybody says homeschool kids are, reading above level and doing all these things. And so you're like keeping up with the Joneses of other homeschool kids and you're trying to prove your mother-in-law wrong who said that you should never homeschool your kids because they were going to turn out weird and they were never going to learn cursive.
Forget mothers-in-law.
Whatever, you know what I mean? Like, I should have a great mother-in-law, but you know what I mean? Like, it's all this weight and all this pressure and all this stuff. And at the end of the day, hopefully some of these tips help you manage your time better. Yeah. But if you still feel like you're running, just put it all in perspective because that's not the important stuff.
Yep.
All the sports, all the tutoring, all of the dates and things, that's not the stuff to remember. Connect with your purpose and remember why you're homeschooling. Thanks so much for joining us today and making us a part of your homeschool journey. Please engage with us on social media. Join our Homeschool Together podcast group on Facebook and find us at Homeschool Together Podcast on Instagram. We'd love to hear your feedback, questions, and recommendations. Until next time.
Happy homeschooling!